Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 29 of X-Men, written by Jerry Duggan. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. So with that said, this issue picks up in a flashback during the House of X, during Charles's address to the world for the first time. So right when Charles starts his announcement, thoughts from none other than Dr. Doom interrupt his broadcast. And the first thing Doom brings up is how he has been waiting for the announcement for a long time. And based on how he is able to communicate with everyone at once, Doom guessed correctly that Charles had to be using Cerebro. Because Doom knows Charles isn't powerful enough to accomplish this feat without it. And another assumption that Doom makes is that Charles is standing right next to his old friend, Eric, because from Doom's words, he knows Charles is not confident enough to do this either. Now, with the King of Latveria making his presence known, Charles lets him know that even though he is impressed that Doom was able to communicate back, he doesn't have time to talk to him because he has to address the entire world. Now this made Doom laugh, because he was already expecting this call. 1. Because unlike everyone else in the world, he had already noticed the shell companies forming around the mutants' pharmaceutical organizations, the same organizations that the Hellfire Club as well as Charles put together to fund their nation. So if Charles wants to address the world, then first he must address Doom. And the answer that Latveria will give you is no. But from one sovereign to another, he grants Charles the professional courtesy of a quick answer on the position he is about to make in regards to his miracle drugs. But see, Doom does not stop there, because he also tells him that he is not worthy of the crown he is about to wear, and in the end, the empire he is attempting to build will end and ruin. So with the message delivered, Charles removes his helmet and informs Eric as well as Moira that Doom interfered with his broadcast. But all Eric had to say about it was, just block him and move on. Now, following that flashback, we fast forward to the current day. The current day during the fall of X, during the time that Doom predicted would come. And within that time frame, we see Doom's ragtag team of individuals become a fighting force, a personal X-Men for Doom. So with that said, Doom lets his fighting force know that one day when the mutants Charles gathered have been largely chewed up and spit out and the sun sets on the all-mutant nation, the X-Men will invade Latveria and attempt to kidnap them. And just like clockwork, Doom's predictions came true, for the X-Men was at his door. So in the current day, Doom makes it a point to point out that he knew this was going to happen, that this day of treachery is at hand. So with everything kicking off, the first person in the battle was the extremely violently supercharged Volta Doom armed with a high-quality vibranium spear. A vibranium spear gifted by Doom himself, for this weapon would serve as a perfect conduit for her power. So with Wolverine claws making contact with said weapon, he quickly realized he was in for more than he bargained for. So with the electrical shock surging through his body, his arm was almost seared down to the bone. But see, due to Wolverine's healing factor, this was just a minor setback in their fight, because he goes on to tell Doom that he doesn't even have to call this a jailbreak if he doesn't want to. And if it made Doom feel better, then he could just consider it something along the lines of work release. Because according to Logan, the world went straight to hell, and every mutant needs to stand together. And just to echo Wolverine's sentiments, Shadowcat goes on to say that they're just wasting time arguing while the sky is filling with sentinels. But see, that's when Volta states that they are not afraid of robots, and as for sentinels arriving on their doorstep, that isn't really a problem, because not a single one has set foot in Latveria as of yet. So with that said, Volta and Logan once again geared up for round 2 as Miss Marvel attempted to separate each side by saying they didn't come there to fight. Which unfortunately, Doom finds hard to believe, considering the last time Wolverine stepped foot on Latverian soil he murdered one of his subjects. So with those words, Slag came out of nowhere and blindsided Wolverine with a mean left cross. Now with peace talks breaking down, Shadowcat jumps back into the fight and starts to go toe-to-toe with Slag. But before they can get too far into the battle, out of nowhere Volta sends a lightning attack directly towards Shadowcat, until Miss Marvel was able to steal the spear right out of her hand. Because once again, Miss Marvel is trying to play peacemaker. So just because she didn't want to fight, didn't mean Wolverine was going to just stand down. With Wolverine's claws deep into Slag's back, one of the twins cried out for her comrade, only for Doom to tell her to calm herself, because Slag is made from Latverian rock. Now speaking of Latverian rock, on the very next page, we see how Doom recruited Slag from prison. For Doom offers Slag a chance to meet the Latverian mutants, the same mutants he refuses to join, and if afterwards he still doesn't want to join them, then he can remain in the prison and continue to throw his life away. So with the offer extended, Slag removed the collar from his own neck and tossed it on the ground and went on to say he could have freed himself at any time. In which Doom responds by saying that he wasn't referring to the physical prison but instead the prison within his mind. So jumping back to the current day, we see how the two twins are about to jump in and intervene to help their comrades against the X-Men. But that's when Doom tells them both to stay back and observe their brutality and learn, because they all may spend the rest of their lives fighting these X-Men. So with the two twins watching from the sideline, the next mutant to intervene was Narration. Now, Narration is seen as both the mind and the body of Latveria, and as for her powers, she has the abilities to both heal or poison, and against Wolverine, she does just that. Because, within a blink of an eye, she wraps her veins around Logan's body and proceeds to inject the poison directly into his chest. Now following this, just like Slag, we also get a brief page explaining her origins. Basically, Doom hired some people to go out and search for the mutants. And apparently, this amusement park was able to track her down, but instead of turning her over, the owner ended up using her as an attraction, which was something Doom could not abide by. So jumping back to the current day, we see how Narration continues to spew what Doom once told them about Charles's X-Men and how they wanted to take them away. Because from their point of view, they are already free and need no liberation. So with their statement made clear, Wolverine states that they can stay with their ruler, and as for him and his team, they will just be on their way. But see, Doom has other plans, because he states that they are not free to leave until they have dinner with him. So with the fighting concluding, we transition into Doom's palace with the X-Men sitting on one side and Doom's mutants on the other in a very awkward situation. But despite the weirdness in the air, Wolverine and Miss Marvel immediately start to chow down while Kate stays just a little on her guard. And while they ate, Slag brings up how he was reborn as who he is today a quarter century ago, and during all his time, he'd never been pushed as hard as he was today when he fought against Wolverine, so, in his opinion, this was a really good fight. So with that going on, Kate walks up to Dr. Doom and she asks, how did he know that Krakoa was going to fall, and since he is so smart, how about he tell her what will happen next? In which he responds by saying the gift of foresight is precious. And as for Krakoa, it was always destined to fall because Charles wasn't ready for the crown upon his head. He also knew his Latverian mutants who had the same genetic lineages were in danger. So to protect his people, Doom closed his borders to everyone. And because of that move, his mutants are alive while Krakoa mutants are nowhere to be found. And as for the answer for what will happen next, he decided he wasn't ready to give them that gift yet. And as for the last Krakoan, Charles is in a jail of his own making, and in the end either he will destroy himself, or he'll emerge as a much more interesting person. So with those final words, he tells them to be gone by dawn and then bids them a good evening as he exits the chamber. So following Dr. Doom exiting the chamber, Volta lets the X-Men know that perhaps Doom is the answer to their problems, because they are all free to ask for asylum if they wish, especially because Orcus is afraid to cross into their borders. And then Narration joins in and continues to say, since your enemies have declared that our shared genes shall be ripped from the earth, then if an opportunity arises to take them off of the board completely, then that would definitely trigger a response from the House of Doom, and the X-Men would certainly have their support. So following their new form alliance, we skip ahead some time, with the team arriving back in New York in high spirits considering they lost the battle. Because at the end of the day, despite losing the battle, the X-Men won the war where it really counts. Because this whole fight was Dr. Doom's way of signaling he'll fight if asked the right way. Because Doom knows eventually they will come for him and his team. And if he waits too long, there will be too few mutants to fight back. So in the end, Doom and his mutants will do the right thing and fight for mutants around the world. So once our squad arrived back in the tunnels to inform Sync of the good news, they discovered only chaos and blood waiting for them. For Sync and their remaining teammates are missing as the fall of the House of X stands on the horizon. So with that said, this issue comes to an end. Now when it comes to this issue, I found it as an okay setup issue for what will happen in the fall of X moving forward. And as for Doom's team, I think they put up a good showing against Shadowcat and Wolverine, and would make for a great addition in the fight against Orcus. And I have to admit, I didn't see an alliance between Dr. Doom and the X-Men as a viable possibility. But after seeing their interaction, I got to say, I'm curious about how long their partnership would last. And as for Doom, I have wondered if he has more tricks up his sleeves, because one has to assume that Doom would have more mutants within his borders than the ones who joined his team. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.